Hi everyone, John Collin here again today, and this time what I'm going to do is something I've seen people post on TikTok usually or YouTube, where they will post what they eat in a day. People who are trying to lose weight will share ideas. Now granted, none of this should ever be taken as medical advice. I'm just showing you what a typical day looks like for me, diet-wise. And unlike a lot of wannabe Olympians like me, they will train for 6, 7 hours a day and they'll burn thousands of calories. Most of my training involves just standing very still, so I don't burn nearly as many calories as they do. So my average diet is fairly ordinary, I suppose you could say. My maximum calories that I allow for myself is 2,200, which is a good number for me. And if you need to know how many calories that you need to eat in a day, one good way you can start to get that number is to use what's called a TDEE calculator, which is a tool you can find online that will estimate. It's got to be taken with a grain of salt, but it'll estimate how many calories you burn in a day based on your weight, your body fat percentage, if you know it, your age, your gender, and it will give you a rough estimate. For me, I probably burn about 3,100 calories a day, maybe. And so based on that, I set my calorie goal at 2,200. Another way that you can estimate, and again, take with a grain of salt, how many calories you burn in a day is with a fitness watch. I have one that also says about 3,000 to 3,100 calories a day for me. But you got to be careful with those because a lot of fitness watches, as well as a lot of exercise equipment you'll see at the gym, will seriously overestimate how many calories that you burn. So you don't want to take that number as being completely accurate, but it can give you a general idea and you can work from there. Typically for men, a range of about 2,000 to 2,400 calories is good in a day. For women, I think you'll see online about 12 to 1,600 per day, but that'll also depend on your height, your age, and you never want to, if you're particularly like an adolescent, like a teenager, you never want to try and restrict too much then because you are growing. So those numbers are going to be for adults, people who, like me, are old enough that our body's not changing nearly so much. So let's start with breakfast. What I'm going to make today is going to be a slice of toast and half of an avocado, some chia seeds, and 2 eggs. And that is it, and a little bit of salt. I don't actually track my salt because I find that my blood pressure more tracks to my weight than it does to the sodium intake. So I don't want to be too restrictive on my sodium intake. I find I stick with diets better if I allow myself a reasonable amount of sodium. I don't overdo it. I don't oversalt everything, but I do add a little bit. And here's some very important things that you'll need if you're going to try to lose weight. Most important thing is a food scale. A lot of people don't have one of these, and it makes a real difference. You want to really make sure that you are tracking how much you are eating of something. For those of you who have watched the show My 600-Pound Life, it's interesting to me. You'll see the doctor tell the patients what to eat. He'll say, high protein and only 1,200 calories a day, and he'll give them, say, chicken breasts or something like that as something that they can eat. And they'll say, oh, I'm following the plan. And they'll show a meal where they'll put 2 giant chicken breasts in one meal and say, yeah, I'm following the plan. That's not following the plan, because the amount that you're eating is, of course, very important. A serving of any kind of meat is generally about 4 to 6 ounces, which is roughly half of a chicken breast. People don't realize a chicken breast is usually about 2 servings. So you want to be careful with that. You want to get yourself a food scale so that you know exactly how much that you're eating. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be an excellent breakfast. I have it quite a bit. It's going to be about 400 or so calories, which is roughly my breakfast budget. So we're going to start with 1 slice of bread. And you want to be careful when you're using packaged food is that you're really reading the label carefully. For example, this one says that 1 serving is 1 slice, and it says a slice is 31 grams. But let's put that to the test here. we're going to take one out and use our food scale to measure it. And you do want to get a food scale that does both grams and ounces. Most do, so that's not a problem. And it says the slice is 44 grams. So one slice is really about 1.5 slices. So that's okay, but you'd got to make sure that you record it correctly. If you think that that's just one slice, and it says one slice is 100 calories, but really it's closer to 150. So you do want to be careful that you're really measuring everything and that you're getting an accurate recording of what you're eating. Because calories can really get away from you very fast if you're not careful. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut an avocado in half. And you can save the unused half by, I've learned this trick recently, is you take it upside down and put it in just a little bit of water. And that will prevent the oxidation. Otherwise, they turn brown really fast. So I'm going to cut this in half and use half of it. So this is 2.1 ounces of avocado. And to this, I'm going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add 1 tablespoon, which is 10 grams, of chia seeds. And there you have it. That's my breakfast. It ends up being about 430 calories, which is pretty close to my budget, so I'm good there. It's just 1 slice of toast, some avocado and chia seeds laid on top of that, and then 2 eggs over easy so I can use the yolk as a gravy and use the bread to soak up the yolk. And that is breakfast today. Now it's time for lunch, and this one's going to be rather simple because I work at home a lot, and my lunches typically are things that I throw together pretty quickly. So I make a lot of salads for lunch, and these, I don't use lettuce. I take vegetables that are either pre-chopped or chop them up finely and actually just eat it with a spoon. So for this one, it is chopped broccoli, chopped up baby carrots, chopped up celery, mini cucumbers. I also boiled some garbanzo beans to get some fiber in there. And to get a good amount of protein, I take 2 chicken tenders and I just pan fry them in just a tiny little bit of oil, just enough to grease the pan. And then I add just 1 teaspoon of olive oil. I don't use store-bought dressings. A lot of them are very processed, so I just use the olive oil and a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar and just a pinch of salt. And then on top of that, I added the other half of the avocado that I had used for breakfast. It was definitely in need of getting used because it was getting pretty soft. So that's going to be my lunch. This is a gigantic lunch, and it's only 535 calories, I believe it is. I'll put it up on the screen so you have the exact number. And my lunch budget is usually about 600 calories or so, so this is a lot of food, well under budget. And I do admit, to go with this, I'll have a Diet Cola. I know you should have water, but you don't need to be perfect. A lot of people will put in the comments under similar videos that say, oh, you shouldn't have this, it's bad. Don't listen to people like that. You don't have to be perfect. Will I eventually maybe stop drinking Diet Cola or drink less of it? Possibly. But if not, I'm not worried about it. Because in the end, what matters is I'm doing a lot better than I used to, and that's progress, and that helps a lot. And now it's the afternoon, and I do tend to have a snack between lunch and dinner. Some people will say, oh, you shouldn't do that, just have a bigger lunch, but I do tend to have one, and usually it's just something simple. I do a protein shake. Mostly it's so I can get my protein up. And as I mentioned before, people have all sorts of opinions as to whether you should drink your calories or whether protein powders are good enough or as good, whatever. Again,
don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. As long as my overall calories are under the limit and as long as I am getting my protein, it's fine. So I just have a protein shake for a snack. Sometimes I'll have some other things, but today I'll just stick with this. And now it's time for dinner. So what I'm going to make today, it's an original creation of mine. What I do, I'm going to take some slices of bacon and lay them out on a plastic cutting board. And on top of that, I still have some chicken tenderloins left over from lunch that I didn't use, so I'm going to pound those as flat as I can. Lay them on top of the bacon. And then on top of that, I'm going to add some minced garlic, some fresh thyme and sage. Always use fresh if you can, so much better than dried herbs. And I'll add some pepper. No need to add salt though, because the bacon is already cured, so it will add plenty of salt to that. And then I'll add some Parmesan cheese. Usually I like to freshly shred some cheese, but I don't happen to have any available, so I can use the packaged kind. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then what I do is I roll them up as tight as I can. And no need to put a toothpick or anything inside of it. What you do is when you put it in the pan, you just put it with the flap of the bacon facing down, and that'll make the bacon basically harden, so it'll make the shell so it won't unravel on you. And just keep an eye on it as you're cooking it. And while that's cooking, I'm going to boil some bacon, or really steam some bacon and broccoli, sorry. Going to steam some broccoli and baby carrots, and that'll be a complete meal. And there you have it. This is my dinner tonight. It's less than 600 calories, even though it's clearly a full plate of food. And it has more than 60 grams of protein, so definitely a great dinner. I try and do it once in a while. It's a fair amount of work to prepare, but I really enjoy it, and it fills me up for the rest of the night. And is well within my calorie budget. I try and keep my dinners under about 700 calories, and this is less than 600, so I'm not going hungry today. And the last thing, I usually do like to have a small dessert before I go to bed. Not always. But a couple of things about dessert is, one, they don't have to be sweet. What I'm having is just a couple of string cheeses. And that's it. It's a good source of protein without being bad for you. But sometimes I do have sweet treats, like I get mini cheesecakes or something like that. But the thing about desserts that a lot of people forget is dessert is not a meal. It should be something very small. And if you do want a sweet treat, then that's fine. But remember, it's not something that's supposed to make you full. It's supposed to be just something that satisfies the sweet tooth. So have desserts if you like, but keep them very small. They shouldn't be more than just a cookie or two or a very small slice of cake. But for me tonight, I'm just going to have string cheese because it is a good source of protein for me. And, well, I don't have any sweet treats available, so that'll help out with me there. And now time for a quick recap. So let's count up everything that we had today. So my goal is 2,200 calories in a day. I kept this one just under 2,000, 1,995, so definitely get that one. My protein totals, I got 185 grams, which is very good. I usually shoot for about 160, so I exceeded that this time. I only had 21 grams of saturated fat. That's not too bad. I had 32 grams of fiber. A little bit lower than I usually like to get it at about 35, but that's okay. And 56 grams of sugars. And remember, that's not added sugar. I didn't have any added sugar today, but foods that you eat will normally have sugars. I had milk, for example, and cheese, and those will have natural sugars, the lactose within them. So as long as you're not eating added sugars, that's not bad at all. So 56 grams is pretty good. So all in all, I think I had a pretty successful day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.